Hello everybody, in this video we're going to be looking at a scape that I made in my 4-foot aquarium. So this tank is 4 foot or 120 centimeters by just under 2 foot by 2 foot or 55 centimeters by 55 centimeters. It holds roughly 350 liters or around 90 something gallons. So for this scape, I had some really cool hardscape. I picked out some Mekong River bogwood from a local aquarium shop, and it was a really nice color and texture. And for the rock, I actually used a black basalt, which is a very cheap inert stone that I could buy by the trailer load or by the ute load at my local landscape supplies, and it cost me about $40 for about 300 or 400 kilos of the stone. So when I bought the wood, I had a rough idea of how I was going to set it up, and it was just a matter of laying out the wood, giving it a little test with some stones before I started to glue everything down and get the main structure set up for my hardscape. So to glue the stones together, I use the tissue paper and liquid super glue method. I use this in pretty much all my tanks, and I also use it to hold the wood together and bond it to the stones so that they don't move easily. Once I had the first main piece of wood properly locked down and glued into the bits of rock, I wanted to make a retaining wall in the front of the tank because I wanted to have sand and I wanted to stop the aqua soil from moving forward. So I used a bunch of different stones to just make a light retaining wall that could be used to hold all the aqua soil back. After I had the main structure and setup of the retaining wall made, I had some of the black basalt gravel, which I actually got from someone's house. I did some landscaping work there and pulled it all out. They were going to throw it in the bin. So I thought, you know what, I'll take that home and I'll be able to use it somewhere. So I gave it all a good wash off, and then I placed it in all the smaller gaps and around the stones to help really lock all the aqua soil back. So here you can see the rough sort of shape that I had for the first few bits of the wood. These were sort of the planting areas in and around here, and I wanted to be able to put a good bunch of plants in. I still had one more piece of wood to go down the middle, which I was going to use for the epiphytes. This is a high-tech setup tank, so I wanted to have a really nice substrate system. So for the base of the substrate, I use the ADA Power Sand Advance. I've used it before and I've had some pretty good results with it, so I wanted to use it on this main display tank in my living room. To that, I also was adding the ADA substrate additive powders, and then I used a bag of the Seachem Flourish root tabs. So after putting down the base layer of our substrate and our nutrients, I topped it all off with some UNS contra soil. For this tank, I used the large grain UNS contra soil because I was going to be putting in a few swords and a bunch of sort of bulb plants and lotuses and aponogetons. So I wanted to give them some good larger structure on the base so that they could put their roots in nicely. For this tank, I ended up using about 2 full bags of the UNS contra soil. So overall, it wasn't too bad for a 4-foot tank. So after putting in the aqua soil, I put in the final piece of the bogwood, and then I added a couple of the basalt stones to the back corner because it was looking a bit bare and open back there. So for this tank, I did a dark start. Dark starting is becoming my favorite method for setting up aquascapes because I'm lazy and I don't want to do so many water changes. And this one I dark started for about a month and a half because I was away for a little while. After coming back for the dark start, we have the planting. So first off, I started off with an Echinodorus hormanii in the corner, which is a bit of a strap leaf, long leafed Amazon sword. And then next to that, I planted an Aponogeton crispus. After the Aponogeton, I planted my tiger lotuses. I had a green tiger lotus at the back, and then I had a red tiger lotus in the middle. These were going to be the main prominent sort of feature plants in the tank, and they achieved that pretty well. They both got to a very big size and looked very impressive in the tank. Up the back, I planted another Echinodorus. This was the Echinodorus White Flame, which when grown in nice light has a really nice bright white new shoots and new leaves, which looks quite impressive. In the middle next to the red tiger lotus, I planted some of the Ludwigia Super Red Mini. With this, I actually use a little trick which I find good when you have those long stems, which is to cut them in half and effectively double the amount of plants that you have to plant.
Wait, tell me what to do.
Up next was the Cryptocorin spiralis tiger. Unfortunately, with some crypts, I find that they just don't like the move from one tank to another. So when I bought this one and put it in, it never really grew and eventually just slowly rotted away, and I never got any growth out of it. In the back corner, I put in some Rotala Walichi. I'd never grown it before and wanted to give it a try, and I thought this would make a nice little texture at the back. After the Walichi, we had some Rotala macrandra. Unfortunately, this one didn't do too well and melted away, but for the period where it was alive at the very start, it looked really beautiful and really bright. So up towards the back, I wanted to have a lot of the sort of more strap leaf plants. So I put in some of these Cyperus helferi. I was hoping to get it to bend and move with the shape of the scape. And I thought it was a pretty cool plant that I wanted to try. Also in the back, we had some more crypts. We had the crypt Crispitula balance, which is, despite being a slow grower, turned out pretty cool in the back there. So in the front here, I planted some of the Eriocaulon Vietnam. I thought this would have a nice look with the grassy, reedy type plants growing in front of the piece of wood. Up the front, we put one of the feature plants, which is the Laganandra silver powder, which has a really nice leaf shape and texture and color. And then also in the front, I put some of the Crypt Parva, as I've always wanted to try growing it. It's quite hard to get here. This midsection I sort of filled with a lot of crypts. This is Crypt Metallic Red. The thoughts were that this was going to be quite a shaded area. And it actually turned out to be too shaded. I put some bulbitis up above, and it just created such a heavy amount of shade that nothing really grew there. I managed to find some of the more crypt balance, so I filled up the back with some extra. And then next to the tiger lotus, I also put this Laganandra Meboldii Red. It kind of got overtaken by the tiger lotus, so it has been struggling with very low light. Again in the middle, I just planted more crypts. This is the Crypt Rosen Maiden, or Nurii, but also it didn't do the best just because of the lack of light that came through from the bulbitis blocking it. In amongst the Eriocaulon, I planted some Blixa japonica. Blixa is one of my favorite plants. I love the way it looks when it sort of gets caught up in the flow of the water and moves around, and I thought it would be a great accent to go along with the Eriocaulon. So I planted another Aponogeton in the back. It was the Aponogeton longiplumilosus, I believe it's pronounced. I'll write it on the screen because it's a very difficult one to pronounce. In next to that, I put some of the Amania or the Rotala bonsai. I can't remember exactly which one it is. I think it recently got reclassified as Amania, but it's a really cool plant and was the perfect size and texture to put in this little sort of mid-ground area. And then in around this rock for details, I put one of my favorite plants, which is the Schismatoglottis petrioi. I'll put the name on the screen because it's hard to pronounce, but I think it might be one of my favorite plants of all time because it has this beautiful look between an Anubias and a Boos, but it grows kind of like a crypt and just does really good. So that was it for the planting into the substrate, and now it is on to the epiphytes. So to start off with, we put the main piece of bulbitis onto the main sort of structure of the wood to grow around. After putting in the bulbitis, I had this spare piece of the narrow Java fern, which I put up the top. I removed this soon after the tank started up because it started to look a bit weird and didn't really grow down all the way that I had sort of intended it to grow. On this front bit of the rock, we put on some of the bulbitis mini, so it remained a lot smaller and didn't reach out as far, and is a cool plant for some nano tanks, which I might take some of it to build out some more nanos in the future. And then finally on the back we have the Java fern trident. I just thought this would give some cool texture and maybe grow in with the bulbitis, but the bulbitis actually grew a lot more and sort of took over that whole area. Now we're on to sort of the Boos and Anubiases for this tank. I might just write all the names down on the screen rather than talking through them all, because there's quite a few different varieties that I put in, and some of the names are a bit random, like this one here, which is the Bucephalandra Nanga Mahap. So I'll put all those on the screen for now so you can take note of them if you want to. And then the final plant for the tank is the Liliopsis brasiliensis. I was growing a lot of this in little immersed grow out tubs on my rack under the light, and I finally got to use it in this tank. This all went into this main open area off to the side. As this tank is sort of viewed from the front and this left hand side, I wanted to keep it kind of open and more of like a grass like look, so you can look through the tank as you go. And then finally it was just time to add the decorative sand to the front, which I wanted to have the decorative sand because I planned on having some nice cories in this tank and wanted to give them something to sift around through and play around with. And here we are directly after finishing all the planting and the sand. The tank looks quite clean and quite nice. The wood definitely looks very red, but as you'll see shortly soon over time, it got nice and greened up with all the algae and the maturing of the tank. And here is the tank maybe a month and a half after growing in. So it was in a pretty good spot here. Everything was starting to grow pretty good. We had a pretty good start to this tank with the algae and everything else. We have CO2. The light is a Chihiros WRGB Slim. The tank has a Awase Biomaster 850 Thermo on here. Pretty much all of the stuff and the tech on this tank was bought secondhand to help me save a bunch of money. So it wasn't as expensive as it could have been. But yeah, overall, it's been running in really nice. So the inhabitants of this tank at the time of this first month were some checkered rainbows, and then we also had some bleeding blue tetras, and then in a little bit you'll see some of the new additions, and then I've got even more additions after that. And here we are maybe 3.5 to 4 months after setting up the tank. It looks a lot more lively now as we have a nice group of platinum rummy nose tetras. We also added some Julia, or the false Julii cories, the 3-line cories. I had a pair of Episto Agassiz double reds. Unfortunately, the female died maybe 2 weeks after getting her, and then maybe 3 or 4 months after this, the male died. And yeah, we still have the bleeding blue tetras and the checkered rainbows. This tank has been through a bit of metamorphosis. I've changed up a lot of the plants. I've rearranged a lot of things. I completely removed the green tiger lotus. I've been trying to keep on top of the red tiger lotus because I went away on holiday for about 3.5 weeks, and I came back and the lotuses had completely covered the whole tank. Nothing was growing properly, so I had to move a lot of things around. I pulled both of the Echinodoruses out from the back and I've moved them to different spots. And then this video was probably shot about 4 to 5 months ago. So it took me a little while to make this video, but I might have a follow-up video coming where I can go through everything because I'm getting ready to change this tank and I want to do a final look at it before it sort of goes away and look at all the changes and how it's growing in now. But anyway, thank you for watching the video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please consider liking and subscribing. It would mean a great deal to me. And thank you for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.